So the filter portion, that's a brand new filter every time you use it. You pull it out of the bag, drops into the front door. It has the built-in gasket, it has a couple little tabs to help hold it in place. It has an indicator on the front to show that it's been exposed to steam. And when that door comes off, it's lifted up and inspected just the same way you'd inspect blue wrap.
What if one conversation could save a life? What if one new process or new product could save a patient from surgical harm? Broadcasting from a hospital basement near you, you're listening to the Beyond Clean Canada podcast, the voice of medical device reprocessing from C to C to C. Each week, we spotlight the people, processes, and products from around the country and the world that are disrupting our profession and helping you fight dirty. Every instrument, every time. Join us as we have the kinds of conversations that matter and give our industry the kind of voice that it deserves. And now it's time to go True North strong and beyond clean.
Welcome all you clean freaks to another exciting episode of Beyond Clean Canada. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode with Rob from Turbett Surgical.
From the studios of Healthcare HQ, you're listening to Beyond Clean Canada, the voice of sterile processing from C to C to C.
So welcome back, all you clean freaks, to another exciting episode of Beyond Clean Canada. Today we have a guest, Rob, from across the pond. Well, not from across the pond, just across the border, I would say, from Turbett Surgical. So, Rob, can you just introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Sure. I'm Rob Turbett, who is a co-founder of Turbett Surgical. It's been a while now. We started becoming commercially available in 2017, so we've been doing this for a while. We're really excited. My background is I was an orthopedic rep, spine, hips, knees, trauma. The funny part is I was so focused on that world, I didn't even realize there was another parts of medicine like hearts and cardiology and bariatrics, and now I find myself in that whole world. So, but anyways, it's been a great transition. We made a product that we needed to solve some of our problems, and it's really fun to, I'm thrilled now. It's become something much bigger than I imagined, and really exciting to have a successful product like this.
Amazing. Absolutely. And Rob, I had the pleasure of meeting you 2 years ago when you came over to Canada to the MDRAO conference, and we very much hope to have Turbett Surgical again at our conference this coming September. So we'll jump right into our first question, Rob. So in 2023, you were named the top med tech company. The article states that consistency, efficiency, and eliminating surprises are watchwords of the operating room's best practice. And with that, Turbett Surgical created the instrument pod. What is an instrument pod, and why did Turbett Surgical invent it, Rob?
Well, thanks for reminding me of that award. That was kind of a cool thing. But yeah, so we make what's called an instrument pod. It's a large, rigid container. And basically, it's designed to hold all the trays needed for a single surgery. Now, this is different than current products that hold one tray at a time. And that was the whole point, is we wanted to consolidate all the repetitive chores. We are using the same trays for each surgery each time, so we know what we're supposed to put into this. And in doing this, well, because it holds more than one tray, it's too heavy to carry, so it has a dedicated cart that it travels with it from loading into the sterilizer into the operating room and then back to decontam. It solves all these problems, and my favorite part about it is that everyone who touches it wins.
Absolutely, for sure. And we're really hoping to see that product come into Canada sooner than later.
I think that you will.
So, Rob, Beyond Clean is a major advocate, let's say, when it comes to reducing waste and sustainability. What are the total cost savings that the pod itself, with return of investment, when switching from the blue wrap or traditional containers to Turbett's pod?
there's two parts to think about this. The first is the waste reduction. We routinely have 2 bags of garbage, when we're using blue wrap before the patient even comes into the room, just from the undoing of everything and all and truth be told, that's one of the convenience factors of blue wrap, is that you don't have to worry about it after you're done, but it creates all this waste. And so what we do is, instead of those 2 bags of garbage, we have 1 filter to throw out. I know this has become a really big issue in the U.S., the whole green effort, the green initiatives. We find ourselves being called in just to solve that problem alone, let alone all the other benefits that we bring. The other part is the cost. So that's where we have even more fun with this. The simple rule of thumb is you need to have at least 3 trays in this container to justify its use, to offset the cost of the filter. That means that everything above 3 trays is all savings. So as an example, if people are using offsite sterilization, I think they charge somewhere between $80 and $100 a tray. So if you're looking at a 10-tray surgery, that's $1,000. Gee, for $150 or so that you can just handle that, with the cost of our filter, you start saving right off the bat just from the reprocessing side of things.
Correct. And just the ergonomics behind it as well, because we all know that a sterile technician, the amount of weight that they lift in a day with multiple trays, now you have 1 pod that can put everything inside that comes with its own cart as well.
So here's the funny part. We have all these things that we love about the pod and all these benefits that it brings. But if you talk to any of the hundreds of customers we have using this in the U.S., okay, you talk to the sterile processing departments, their favorite part is it gets rid of their lifting. And so basically, once you inspect the tray and place it into our pod, that's the last time anyone in the department touches it or has to lift it. So we calculate that we save about 60% of the lifts compared to what you're currently doing. That's made a lot of people happy, saved a lot of backs, saved a lot of wrists. Actually, the whole repetitive motion of closing all those latches or undoing them, that's all eliminated as well.
Your poor little fingers by the end of the day.
Exactly.
Rob, can we throw in a little myth buster here when it comes to the pod? Because I know some of the concern behind it is, what if, contamination portion of it? So if they were to open it and contaminate it, how does that affect that case when you have every instrument in there that you need?
That's the number one question we get in every account that we go into. And it should be, because that's our number one concern. And that was what kept us awake at night, as we're kind of inventing this and figuring out how to work with it. Here's the beautiful part. What we do is that by eliminating all those repetitive chores that occur in sterile processing or in the MDR, when you have to wrap a tray, that's all gone. Let's say that it takes you an hour. Oh, let's make it simpler. Let's call it 30 minutes to wrap all your trays for a total joint. It now takes you 5 minutes to load the pod. What are you going to do with that extra 25 minutes? We're not asking you to work harder or faster. We're asking you to take more time to do the critical part of the job, the inspection of the instruments. So that we want to make it easy for you to deliver a perfect product every time. And because of that, one of my favorite anecdotal stories is Ken Hare, who ran the Scripps Health System in California from the sterile processing side. He said, hey, their rejection rate was at about 5%. When they brought in the pods, it dropped to less than 1%.
That's amazing.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see it work. And again, there's so much pressure on the people doing the reprocessing to be perfect every time.
Yeah, and they forget we are humans. Yes, we strive to be perfect, but like you said, given that extra window of time that's normally used to do wrappings, they can triple check their work. Not
only that, but we've actually been brought into facilities to help solve their bioburden issues. So we're actually saving enough time that a second person can do the inspection, and it still takes them less time to load all the trays and process all the trays for a case. So the other part that's really nice about this is when we go into a facility now, we have a whole clinical team, people who with sterile processing and operating room backgrounds that are part of Turbett Surgical. And we bring them in to help with the training, speaking the same language, because it's not just a salesperson coming in and spouting things off. It's people who are experienced and can share that knowledge and train each facility as we go along.
Now, Rob, a CSA standard here in Canada is an indicator on every level of every tray. How does the pod work when it comes to indicators? Is it one indicator, or does an indicator need to be in each tray still?
That's a great question, because we hate changing any process. Change leads to confusion. So what we do is, for simplicity, we just follow those same guidelines that AAMI ST 79 states. Hey, we put an indicator in each tray.
Okay, so it would be the same.
It's the exact same thing. And that's the other thing to realize about the whole process. This is the exact same technology, the exact same pre-vac steam sterilization that everyone's currently used to doing. We don't want we don't need you to change your sterilization times. We don't need to do any, we work with your existing equipment. And so we want it to be as simple as possible.
A lot of our sterilizers in Canada, I know that I've worked with hospitals, is Steris. So that pod would be compatible to go right into a Steris sterilizer, correct?
I think so yes, the simple answer to that is yes.
Let's just say, for instance, throw it out there, a Steris sterilizer.
We work with Steris, Getinga, Belamed, Tuttenauer, Skytron. There's a whole, and I think, so the magic behind this is, and you can see in the pod behind me, there's some wheel section, and that's specific to the sterilizer. So if you tell us you have a Steris Evolution or a Steris Eagle, we have a specific cart for that matches up to your existing sterilizer. But yes, we work. So the only restriction we have, there are some sterilizers that are really narrow, like the 16 and 20 inch ones. The sterilizer does have to be at least 23 inches wide to accept the pod. And that represents all the medium verticals and all the horizontal sterilizers that are out there.
So the pod right in there. And honestly, the smaller ones are probably, they're not really seen very often anymore, but when you do see them, they're at smaller facilities that are not, they don't have a huge workload.
Exactly.
And possibly not even doing orthopedic. And if they do, it's just the smaller orthopedics. So that's good to know. It was one thing that's always been on my mind. I'm like, but does it fit in every sterilizer?
The simple rule of thumb is, if you're using a loading cart to load your sterilizer, yes.
Yep. It will fit right in there. Beautiful. And as for, I have a million questions for you now. Just listeners, we're totally going off topic right now. So washing wise, that pod itself, right through a cart wash?
So we have both a manual cleaning process in our IFU that's been validated, as well as mechanical cleaning. So the mechanical cleaning is the cart washes. Love places that have cart washes. It just makes it so simple.
It does. You just push it in and comes out and you're good to go. Make sure the arms have reached inside. So, Rob, the instrument pod has been proven to allow hospitals a significant increase of surgeries daily. This is the best part about this pod, is the numbers. I love the numbers. How does the instrument pod specifically reduce OR turnover time, and what data supports that?
So, cool question, right? So this is why we did this. In fact, we started this because we were sitting in it was with the surgeon, we're just twiddling our thumbs, waiting for the room to get ready, thinking there's got to be a better way. And so the simple rule is that the current process is we call it a 2-person, 20-minute process to open up a room. The pod changes that to a 1-person, 1-minute process. What happens is that once the circulator takes the door off and inspects the filter, the surgical tech is free to pull out the trays at their convenience, freeing up the circulator entirely from this process of, I talk about it as opening Christmas presents on Christmas morning, tray after tray after tray. So because of that, because it takes such a short time to set up the room now, that any room that's dedicated to pods, by that third case, they've saved 40 to 60 minutes of room opening time halfway through the day. So, and it's one thing for me to talk about it. I'll use Dr. Waltz as an example. He was a surgeon. He started using the pods, and he started posting stuff on LinkedIn. Hey, I was doing 7 total joints a day. Now I'm doing 9. Soon it'll be 10. Well, I saw him 2 weeks ago. Naturally, he goes, yep, I'm doing 10 joints a day now because we're saving so much time in setting up the room.
Wow. And now when I spoke to you on the phone, Rob, you threw some numbers out at me. So
So
We had a little phone conversation a couple of weeks ago.
that's right. So my favorite part about this are the clinical studies that have come out. They're independent. That means that we had nothing to do with them. People just looked at the product, started using it, made some observations, and did their own study on this. Now, the first surprise we got was from Brooke Army Medical Center a number of years ago. And that was kind of looking at the future like, oh my gosh, this is solving all these problems. And look, we might be able to do an extra surgery per day. Okay. But then when it came to, Cindy Burleson, she's in Wilmington, North Carolina. She was an administrator down there. She put together a study, and she looked at 6 months before and 6 months after the pods. And she had an already full block schedule. She looked at the 5 surgeons that she was working with there. And in that already full block schedule, they were able to fit in 124 additional surgeries. Every surgeon was more productive. Everyone, everyone wins. So, and as I understand now, there's some hospitals in Canada that are being incentivized to be doing more surgeries. Just perfectly.
It's because the wait lists are just absolutely astronomical at times. And then COVID obviously pushed those wait lists even more because they couldn't operate for how many months. But I don't want to say numbers, but I know there's people that have waited for totals for almost 2 years.
It's we'd love to help shorten that list dramatically.
Absolutely. Get those people back and enjoying life.
So the other funny part, the other perspective is, and especially when you talk to people, it's like, oh, we want you to do more surgeries per day. Oh, that means I'm going to have to work harder. No, in the end, it's not. It's actually having a much easier time and being more productive because of it.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, like you said, because even in the decontamination area, which we focus on, and that's where our heart is, you're not wrapping, you're not putting in containers. Yes, you're checking, but then you're putting it into the pod, and there's a whole set. Because I know, our knee sets at our hospital, they're 8 trays. A knee is 8. A hip, what do we have? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9-ish trays, depending on the complexity or the stage of the hip. So, yeah, great.
So you just brought up a good point about working with the rigid containers. And so while I love rigid containers, we make a really big one. The challenge with the small ones is that they have to go through a whole reprocessing after they're used. And you have to inspect the gaskets on these to make sure that the gaskets are the part that create the seal.
Yep.
So you have to do that inspection. What we did, understanding that that's another chore we want to eliminate, we built the filter cartridge it has a gasket built right into it. And what that means is that every patient gets a brand new seal. It also means you don't have to inspect gaskets because there's no reusable gaskets on our device.
Oh, wow.
So we've really simplified the whole process for, when it comes to reprocessing the device, we've simplified the inspections on it.
What about the filter portion, Rob?
So the filter portion, that's a brand new filter every time you use it. You pull it out of the bag, drops into the front door. It has the built-in gasket. It has a couple little tabs to help hold it in place. It has an indicator on the front to show that it's been exposed to steam. And when that door comes off, it's lifted up and inspected just the same way you'd inspect blue wrap.
Okay. And I know our listeners can't see this, but if you go to Turbett Surgical's webpage, you can see it. But that behind you, Rob, that would be the filter of the pod?
Yeah, that's the front door. That's our medium-sized pod. It's a TS1200, and the entire blue area that you see there is one filter. It comes out like a small sheet of paper, like a small sheet of web.
Beautiful. Our listeners, Rob has his background of his screen right now as a pod, so I can see Rob in his pod. Rob, I know you have a little story. I just want you to tell our listeners that you were on the AHF, that's a tongue twister, Shark Tank for the pod.
That was so cool. That was, wow. I'll tell that a highlight of my career. If my mom could have seen me.
But, she does. Rob.
What we had was The Anterior Hip Foundation has an annual meeting, and they invited us to be part of their Shark Tank. In fact, Dr. Waltz, who I mentioned earlier,
Okay, yeah.
he said, "Hey, you guys got to go here." He goes, "Not only I think that you could win this." And so we showed up. We did our presentations, a little overview, and both on the story of the device, presented some of the clinical data with it. And I think there was about 400 surgeons or so in attendance, and they had to vote. And we won the vote. And my favorite line was that it said that we were the device that was, out of the 7 other devices shown, we were the device that was needed most and needed now. And so the surgeons, kind of the end user, because they're responsible for the patient's, safety in the OR. And so they have to, we look at the surgeon as a customer. And for them to say, hey, this is needed and this is needed now, that meant a lot to us. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I had a chance to go back and present from the podium again what the past year has been like for us. And it was really great to be, I told the audience, don't listen to me about this. Let's look at what the surgeons are saying. And I brought up a list of surgeons and their quotes. LinkedIn's been wonderful for us. Beyond Clean's been wonderful for us. Getting the word out to talk to people, but it's so much fun to hear them say just nice stuff about us. It's wonderful.
Like the true the testimonials, right? I was just in Winnipeg about a month ago now, and they did not like a Shark Tank, but there's another one there. It was the same idea of Shark Tank, and it was really interesting to see companies come forward with their new products that are just coming out and launching. And there was actually a guy from Australia there too. He put on quite the performance. It was very good. So I think he won for best performance. Might not have won for best product, but he won for best performance. That's for sure. So, but no, we congratulate you, Rob.
Thanks. I can tell you that the as rewarding as that was, the biggest reward for us is we've had customers, for 8-9 years now. And the best part is when they come back and they order more pods, because that's telling us that, yes, we're on the right track. Hey, this has gone great for orthopedics. We want to start up doing cardiology with this now. That just, we had an order the other day, and I just sent a note to everyone that, look, that's just, talk about affirmation that we're on the right track here.
Absolutely. It's rewarding all on its own when you see that. It's
really good.
They asked, we delivered. Beautiful. So, Rob, as you know, Canada follows the CSA standards. The instrument pod follows the AAMI standards, which we do piggyback a lot off of AAMI, CSA. How do you validate sterilization efficiency and compliance with AAMI, especially for complex and lumen instruments?
Ooh, lumen.
Instruments.
Okay, now we're talking. So this has been really cool. In the U.S., the pod is a class 2 medical device, which means that we go through, so we had to get an FDA clearance to use the device. And we had to go through the 510K process, and we received our first 510K, I think back in 2017. And part of that process, we have to show sterilization efficacy. And there's standard tests that we run in an independent lab to prove that this works. And the FDA also says, well, you need to claim what size lumens and how long they are. And so what we've done, literally, I think a month or two ago, we received our latest 510K, where we took the lumens down to 1 millimeter in diameter by 850 millimeters long. And then we also did a 0.7 millimeter lumen by 500 millimeters long. And so this is, as we found, as we've gone outside the world of orthopedics, because this is pretty narrow, tiny stuff, but there's other people that have a need for this. So it's important that we look at the tools going into the device and make sure that we don't exceed those guidelines that were given, because we haven't proven it to anything smaller than that. But other than maybe some really tiny Fraser tips, I'm not sure that I've seen anything that's much smaller than this. There are very complex instruments that, we don't change the product. You still have to go through the same cleaning, the same inspection process. But if it's able to go in a pre-vac steam sterilization cycle, then our device will work for that. One of the really interesting things that came about too is the sterilization cycle is written in gold. It's 4 minutes minimum for us. Okay. Dry time is another story. So when you think about sterilization in the cycle, plastic is one of the hardest things for a sterilizer to dry. And that's all that blue wrap that's in there. That's all plastic. That's all removed from the equation. So the question is, how quick can we dry something? Well, we were actually validated for a 10-minute dry cycle as well. So that means instead of a 430, if that's your standard, you can run a 410 with this. And again, we do verification loads at every hospital that we go into to ensure that we're going to work within that facility's capabilities. But even, I think Zimmer Biomed even validated their instruments in this at the 410 cycle. The cool part is that takes about 30 minutes for your sterilizer to run instead of the normal hour-long cycle. So if you have 2 sterilizers, you can now act as if you have 4. There are weight restrictions that we have to pay attention to. And again, we run verification loads. But we have the pod's capable of doing some pretty wonderful things to help smooth and make the process efficient.
And I think it's just the beginning. Like, this is just the beginning of it for sure. Actually, Rob, I remember MDRAO moment now when you got to sit on the panel with Bobby and do the Mythbuster session.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. I apologize. I'm going to forget the people's names I was with. But one represented...
I remember the names, but I can't remember who they were with, though. There was Jamie and Laura.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one represented paper, the other represented small rigid containers, and there was me.
Yes.
And it was a lot of fun. And I love listening to the paper and rigid container people battle it out because they're so right in both ways. I mean, the paper people say rigid containers go bad because the gaskets go bad over time and the lids have to get inspected and such, and they're right. Meanwhile, the rigid container people say, well, yeah, but it holds 20% of the time in your paper or whatever that number is. And so they both have their challenges. I like to just kind of sit back and say, okay, yeah, you guys can fight all you want. We get through all that. We just make life easy.
It was a fun session. I believe Jamie, she was from the States as well, correct?
I think she was out on Long Island, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
She was a wonderful presenter. I'm very, very
was. Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed having her. And if anybody who's interested, I believe if you go to the MDRAO past conferences, which would be 2023, her information would be up there. I'm so sorry, but I can't remember her last name at the moment.
The fun part for me is they were asking the cost each time. And
yes.
Rigid Containers said their cost. I'm like, cost? What? No, we make people money. We generate revenue and we save at the same time.
Yeah, it was a fun little session. I was glad that Bobby Parker was able to... Actually, Bobby and Linz were there, but Bobby did the Mythbuster session, so it was really interesting. We will have to bring it back for this conference.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Absolutely. But Rob, it was such a pleasure having you on today, and I was so glad that you were able to join. Is there any last words that you'd like to leave for our listeners?
Stacy, thank you so much for your time. This is just fun. This has been the most fun I think we've ever had with any product because, again, with us, everyone wins.
They do. The patient, the doctors, the technicians, they all win.
Yeah, I've gotten more hugs from surgical techs. You don't have to hold trays up waiting to get inspected anymore. And it's just...
Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
No, it's just been, like I said, the fun part is we go in to solve maybe one problem and then everyone else sees the benefit. And it's been wonderful to have a product that's been so well received.
I was visiting a site this late fall of last year, and it was a GTA site, and the manager there, she's a huge advocate and fan of your work, and she's like, we need these here so bad. So have they been tested anywhere in Canada yet?
I will say that we cleared up any regulatory concerns, so we're free to go. And they are, I think, in final negotiations on a distributor to help.
Let's get them over here. Like
I said, I am literally a stone's throw away from you, so I'm happy to help out in any way.
Yep, I'm here. We're here as Beyond Clean to help Turbett Surgical as well. So,
awesome.
But thank you so much, Rob, and I really hope to chat with you real soon.
It's great to be with you.
Enjoy your summer holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you, all you clean freaks, for tuning in to another episode of Beyond Clean. I did this one solo. Did we miss you, Barry? Absolutely, we did. But in the meantime, we're going to keep fighting dirty. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond Clean Canada. your source for MDR content, education, and inspiration. If you enjoyed this conversation, we'd love to hear from you on the BCCA LinkedIn or Facebook page, or anywhere podcasts are heard. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating on your favorite app. And until we talk again, keep fighting dirty.